When I say the Philippines, I mean, and don't go to anywhere else in the world to do this outsourcing. I know some of you guys are thinking, oh, great, I got a contact in Vietnam, I'll go there. No, go to the Philippines. There's a specific set of cultural differences that exist in the Philippines that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. Not South America, not Brazil, not South Africa, not Eastern Europe, not Thailand or Cambodia or Singapore. Go to the Philippines with this. It is a completely different experience because of this combination of cultural differences that exist there. So before I show you those cultural differences, let me show you this. This is a picture of 6 of the 10 people that I have working for me. They all work full-time for me, and these people all make between $200 and $700 per month for full-time work. So I show you this picture for 2 reasons. First, I want you to know a little bit of what you can get done. So the first guy here, this guy up here, is a very good technical person. He can do programming, he can do PHP and MySQL, he can manage servers, he can do anything technical that I want done. I just send him an email and say, hey, do this. And it gets done. He makes about $700 a month. The next guy, this guy right here, is also a very good programmer. He's also a good graphic designer. So anything design work that I want done, graphics or whatever, he can do it for me. And I just have to send it to him and say, hey, get this done. And then he's also a very good programmer, which is super nice to have those 2 skills in the same person. These other 4 people are all pretty similar. They will all do research for me and tell me, give me all the data that I need to be able to make informed decisions in my business for what niches we should be in and what things we should be doing in these businesses. So they'll do all the research. They'll build websites for me. They'll put up WordPress. They'll change the theme. They'll get it looking how I want it to look. They will write the content for websites. They will do all the marketing for them. So they'll write, articles and create videos and do link building and profile links and social bookmarking and social networking, and they'll do directory submissions, and they'll put up RSS feeds and link to them, and they do all these things that that I'm talking about, that you hear about, that but you can't do yourself because there's just too much to do. The guy all the way on the right, he was one of the first people I hired, and he's now a project manager. So here's first tip. Do not go out and try and hire yourself a project manager. In the Philippines, they do not have the educated workforce that we have here in the U.S. And so, and I'm not saying you can't do this. I'm just saying it's really difficult. It's difficult to find someone with experience managing the kind of projects that you are going to work on, internet-based projects. They just don't have the experienced, educated workforce over there. So you've got to train the people you hire. They don't know how to go out and market your website for you. You have to train them. The one good thing about it is they all speak really great English. So, and I don't have her picture here, but I have a girl that makes phone calls to U.S. customers. And if you got a phone call from her, you would not know that she wasn't in the U.S. You'd probably know that she wasn't born and raised here, but because there's a slight accent. But her English is perfect, and she'd be super helpful and super polite, and you wouldn't know that she wasn't here in the U.S. So, you can get all kinds of work done over there. They can do amazing things. Here's the second reason why I show you this, and this is kind of a weird one, but as I've talked about outsourcing over the years, I get the idea that people think that these are kind of like robots, or that, they're like 7,000 miles away and just get another one, or just throw them away, or, I kind of get the feeling that people think they're robots. They're not humans. And so I show you their pictures so that these are human beings. They're people with families and feelings and needs and problems in their lives. Please treat them as such. I heard of a time where a guy was not treating them very well, and I cannot tell you the anger. You will grow to love the people that you hire, and they'll become your friends. You'll love working with them. As you treat them well, they will do amazing things for your business. They will work their tails off. You just have to treat them well. So let's talk about the cultural differences, and you'll understand why they'll do such good things for you. And just so you guys know, this is just my thoughts over the last 5 years of doing this, where there's no website that I could go to and say like, why does outsourcing to the Philippines work so well? This is just what I've experienced and talking to people and seeing this. So in the Philippines, there's a culture of honesty to the point where my guys have access to, they have my credit cards, they have access to my bank account, they have username and password to my personal email account, they have usernames and passwords to my PayPal accounts, they have username and passwords to my hosting account, they have root access to my servers. The only thing they don't do is they don't pay themselves, because if they paid themselves, they would know how much each other made. Having said that, I've helped literally thousands of people hire Filipinos, and never once have I heard of a problem with dishonesty, someone stealing something. Please don't go do something that you're not comfortable with and be the first one to get ripped off and come back to me and say, hey, they stole this from me. Please don't do something you're not comfortable with and get ripped off. Just because I say they're honest doesn't mean that the person you hired is. Now, chances are really, really good that the person you hire will be honest. And it shouldn't take you as long as it took me to recognize how honest they were so that you can make your life easier. The more you give them, the easier your life becomes. And the honesty factor is a really, really big deal in that. Okay, so second, in the Philippines, there's a culture of loyalty, almost to it being a fault of theirs, where they're so loyal that once you give them a job, they'll never quit the job working for you. Which means that you can give this person all kinds of things to do, knowing that they'll never quit. You can teach them things in steps if you need to. So like if you give them something to do and you leave out a step in your training, it's okay because you can fill in that step later, and then you know that that person's never going to quit, and so the next time you hire someone, even though your training's not perfect, they have someone else to come and ask. So that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the super E-Myth revisited documentary, like what Michael Gerber talks about in the E-Myth. You don't have to be that amazing superhuman. You can make mistakes, and here's the other great thing. Knowing that the Philippines is not going to quit working for you, Filipinos also think like we do. So, their brains work the same way the Western world does, and they will read between the lines. If you make a mistake in something that you're teaching them, they'll read between the lines and go and try and figure it out. I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of experience that I've had. One of my guys recently, I gave him the task of setting up an account in one of my systems for someone, and I said, hey, will you set up an account for this person? And I get an email back from him that says, and this is in the middle of the night. He works in the middle of the night, or during daytime for him, which is in the middle of the night for me, so I'm asleep. But I get an email from him in the morning that says, sir, I don't have his email address. What's his email address so I can set up this account for him? And before I can respond, I have another email in my inbox which says, sir, is this his email address? I went out and did some research to see if I could find it. This is the email address I found for him online. Is this correct? So even before, before I had the chance to respond and tell him the email address, he's already gone and found this guy's email address. He's trying to solve the problem for me. So combine this loyalty thing with the fact that they'll read between the lines and they think like we do, where they're trying to solve the problem. It's really amazing. Filipinos are very intelligent. They will all have bachelor's degrees, and like a real university bachelor's degree. They all have computers and internet access, which means you don't have to go over there and set up an office. They can work from home. You also don't have to go through a service to hire them. They're very hardworking by nature, and they speak American English, which is really important when you're running a business in the U.S. They don't speak Indian English. Combine that with the fact that in the Philippines, they actually like America, which is very different than most of the rest of the world right now. And so let me stop here for a second before I talk about the social status thing. In liking America, I'm in the U.S., so I talk about America. I know people in the UK, Canada, and Australia who are successfully doing this. I've talked with people all over Europe. I've talked with people in Mexico and Colombia and Brazil, in Thailand and Singapore. I've talked to people all over the world who are successfully hiring Filipinos. So this is less about, the more I've done this, the more I realize, this is less about being an American boss as it is about being a foreign boss. Filipinos look up to foreigners, which is a cultural difference that I've never seen anywhere else in the world. but they look up to you as a foreigner. Also, just so you guys know, Filipinos don't have a male or female problem. They'll work just as well for a male boss as they will for a female boss, and I think that's pretty important. So in the fact that they look up to you, when you give this person a job, you just elevated their social status among their peers. You know, they're working for a foreigner, and so they'll brag about you, their foreign boss, on, you know, when they're out with their friends on Friday night. So let me combine all this stuff together for you and sum it up, just so you understand what's going on here. The Philippines is a very third world country. It is hard to find a job in the Philippines. And it's more difficult to find a full-time job in the Philippines. There's so much temporary and part-time work there that when you give this person a full-time job, it's amazing how that changes their outlook on their employment. So this is why I say give them a full-time job. Don't hire them part-time. So let's combine all this stuff together. You just hired this person as a foreigner. You just elevated their social status. You gave them a full-time job, working from home on their own hours, which is everyone's dream. And then they're making more money than anybody else they know. I'll tell you two experiences I've had. One of my guys told me that he loans money to his dad on a regular basis because he makes so much more money than his dad does. He makes $450 a month. Another one of my guys told me he's teaching all of his friends how to do what he does because he makes more than double what any of them make. So you combine these things together, you just elevated their social status because they're working for a foreign boss. They're working from home on their own hours, making really good money. But what you get in the end is they will do anything to make you happy so they can keep their job. They will work their tails off to make sure that you're happy. Here's the last thing, and I know some of you guys are thinking, as I tell you this story about the business that makes me $10,000 to $15,000 a month, and this guy builds it all for me. Why doesn't he just go do it on his own? Here's why. In the Philippines, they're not entrepreneurial. They just want a job. They don't want to start a business. They don't want to steal your business. They don't want to take the risk of doing it on their own and take the risk of losing their job. They just want a job with a stable paycheck that they can take home to their families and support their families. Give them a job. When you combine all this stuff together, it really, really makes for a different experience than anywhere else in the world.